Okay, we're down to the letter P. If you've been with me for the last several letters, perhaps M, N, O, it's like, whew, okay, finally we're back to a normal letter. Piece of cake. This letter pretty much follows all the rules. We start by holding our pen in what I call the number 4 position, which is a little bit more horizontal than normal. Start making sure that the beginning of this curve is horizontal. Don't start going downhill too soon. Horizontal, then nice friendly curve coming down to about 7, 8 o'clock on a analog clock. The major stem, holding your pen at a traditional 3.5 angle with a nice little kick out foot at the bottom. Now, there are many different ways to do the loop at the top of the P. This is my favorite way right now, is to leave a little bit of a V up here. What I've called on some of my letters a friendly V open space up there. So I'm going to either hold my pen at an angle that it makes a very thin line, comes all the way to the top of the letter, and then curves down like this. That's one option. Let me show you another one. The alternative would be, instead of holding my pen this way, would be hold the pen in a more traditional angle, but make it do a wheelie. Hold it just on that bottom corner, and then when you come to the top, lay it down, and then you'll end up with a little angle like that. Does that make sense? Let me draw that really quickly, the alternative way of doing it. So here's my first stem, vertical, little kick out foot, and then making my pen stand on its hind legs, and then finish this way. Now, just to comment, I do like it where the bottom of this loop is just a little bit lower than the bottom of that curve. Get it? I feel like that's aesthetically pleasing. Lowercase p, very similar, very simple. Little, tiny little hook at the top. Main stem parallel to your italics slant, your italicization. Can I use that word again? And then same thing up here. Either I make my pen do a little wheelie, stand on just that back corner, and come and do that, or let me do it again really quickly, or else the alternative to that is I adjust the angle of my pen so that this is a very thin line, and then draw the curve that way. Just one more real small detail, and that is, do you let this end of this loop peak beyond the stem? And my feeling is that's your call. You can do either one. Either one is very appropriate. Same thing on the lowercase. You can make it peek out just a little bit past the stem if you'd like. Either one is very much in keeping with the Chancery cursive font. Let's go now to the felt tip marker. Starting again, my pen in a little bit more horizontal position. Make sure I go straight for a while, then I curve down. Go back up there, holding the pen now in the traditional angle. Straight down, straight, that is parallel. Well, I did this wrong. I was talking, wasn't thinking. Let me do that again. Parallel to the italic slant, and just a little kick out. You see, I would call this a foot, and I would call this a kick out, or a little hook at the bottom. Okay, let's pretend I've already drawn that curve. There we go. Now let's do the next. I'm going to make my pen stand on its hind legs, come up here to the top, then I lay it down, and then do the rest of the curve, and maybe stick out there. Got it? Lowercase p, little hook at the top, the vertical stem parallel, make sure it's at the right angle, then just a little kick out there at the bottom, and again, make my pen do a little wheelie and do the curve there, and that's the lowercase. I think you're getting it. Let's go ahead now to the dip pen, get my ink out, and this jar is nothing fancy. I don't even remember where I got it. It's a part of my calligraphy kit that I carry with me wherever I go. Any jar will do. It doesn't even have to have a lid on it, but if you don't have a lid, you're going to be refilling it or cleaning it out because it'll dry what's in there, and you'll have to be continually cleaning it out. This way, it stays pretty workable for a long time. Dip my pen in there, and by the way, this is where you get your fingers dirty. So if you're getting your fingers dirty, way to go. You look like a calligrapher. Let's do the capital P, holding my pen in a more horizontal form, curve down to about 8 o'clock, then the normal stem, holding my pen at a normal angle, making a vertical line parallel to the calligraphy slant, to the italic slant, little kick out at the bottom, Now let's see if I can make it walk uphill. Yes, I can. No problem. And then a big curve. Good enough. Now let's do a lowercase p. Little hook at the bottom. And again, one of the things you want to be watching out for is the shape of the empty space. The shape of that V. Is it a pleasant shape? So you're not only looking at the letters when you do all these letters, you're looking at the spaces. So one of the things you want to watch out for is the shape of this V. You want to not only keep an eye on the shape of the letter itself, but the shape of the spaces around them. Now, what if you want to connect the letter P to the next letter? Just as in, you recognize that this part of the lowercase p is shaped exactly like the letter O. So it doesn't necessarily have to connect to a letter beside it, but if you feel like it's more appropriate, you can do an extra kick out this way. Let's say I'm going to the letter I. That will work just fine. Okay, that's for a connector. What if it's the last letter in a line of type? Lowercase p. Let's draw it first. You have a couple options here. One is to simply do what I did there and do something like that. That's okay. Some letters lend themselves more to a final flourish than other letters do. And the letter P is not one of those that lends itself. You might even want sometime to instead go from the bottom of the stem, the descender here, and do big curve. And you saw what happened, right? You not only saw it, you'd heard it, didn't you? When I tried to make my pen walk uphill, it didn't work at all. That's the classic example of what happens many times. So if you really wanted a curve like that, you'd have to come back and do it the right way, drawing your pen down. Got it? We've nailed the letter P. You're doing a great job. Let's keep going.